We've had the visual surprise, now we get an audio surprise. Melinda Nagy Abonyi was born in the Vojvodina, the Hungarian-speaking province of what is now Serbia. At the age of 5, she suddenly found herself uprooted and set down in Zurich, for her at the time a strange and not very welcoming city. And she was surrounded by a strange language. She is a musician, as I said, as well as a writer, and combines the two, in action and on the page. Her sense of melody and rhythm are clear in the fluid style of her second novel, Flyaway Pigeon. This novel tells the story of a family torn between emigration and immigration, and paints evocative portraits of the former Yugoslavia and of modern-day Switzerland. Melinda's prose is lyrical and supple, and shifting between registers and tonalities as her characters slip between languages and cultures. Like voices in counterpoint, she interweaves several narrative strands, alternating the history of 3 generations of the Kochis family and their hard-won assimilation in Switzerland. The immigrant's predicament, inhabiting multiple worlds without necessarily feeling at home in any of them, is a subject she treats with great sensitivity. The book is also a bittersweet coming-of-age story, punctuated by episodes illustrating the family's enduring estrangement from both their Serbian and their Swiss communities. In one telling scene, the family's fate is decided when the Schwarzenbach Initiative, a historical precedent of the recent February 9th referendum in Switzerland to limit immigration, is narrowly overturned in a plebiscite. Flyaway Pigeon is her second novel, as I said, and is the first book to win both the Swiss Book Prize and the German Book Prize. She's also the first Swiss author to win the German Book Prize. So we'll begin with the English.
My grandmother's soft sing-song, the frogs croaking at night, the pigs squinting their little piggy eyes, the excited clucking of a chicken before it is slaughtered, the damask violets and apricot-colored roses, colorful swearing, the pitiless summer sun, and over it all the smell of braised onions, and my strict Uncle Moritz, who suddenly stands up and starts dancing. The atmosphere of my childhood. That was my answer after a long pause when a friend asked me years later what homeland meant to me. At the time, the most important things didn't even occur to me. First, Trauby soda, the relatively unknown but in fact most delicious drink in the whole world, which has surely been blessed by Pope John Paul II, and which I associate so completely with my native country that I forgot to include it in my answer. And second, something that is not so easy to capture in words because it's my memory of Nomi, how her whining got on mother's and father's nerves back then in the summer of 1980 when she started in soon after we got to Mamika's, demanding that Mamika tell her everything and tell it right away. My sister's whining, I suddenly realized, was comparable to my secret, frantic inspections. We were both afraid of being cut off from our home country. We wanted to recover the time that had passed while we were away, and in our race against time, it was immensely comforting to be able to orient ourselves with banal, mundane things. The chopping block that fortunately was always in the same place, next to the pigsty, near the outhouse. Mamika, who hasn't bought any cows or pheasants in the meantime, but still makes do with her pigs, chickens, geese, and ducks. The tiny pigeon loft that we find in the attic, just as we left it. And Mamika has told us that she only keeps the pigeons for our mother's sake, because mother loves grandmother's pigeon soup more than anything else and looks forward to it every year, just like a child, as she herself admits. We're happy when we make the rounds with Mamika and see that she hasn't turned her flower beds into a vegetable garden, and that the plum tree stands exactly where it always has, near the corn silo, and some of the fruit falls in the garden and the rest drops onto the paving stones, where it soon falls prey to the ants, beetles, wasps, and the chickens always pecking stupidly at everything they see. When Mamika shows us her world, stops by the wooden fence that surrounds the chicken coop and says, "Yes, Mr. Salma's courtyard is still a mess. See for yourselves." When we peek through the gaps in his fence at the giant squashes, some already burst open, and the weeds crowding out the beautiful roses, When we hear Mamika say, she just doesn't understand, dear Mr. Zalma, why he repaints his house every year but lets his garden go to seed. Oh, just look how the ivy is devouring the raspberry bushes. We're reassured, Nomi and I, because our homeland is not allowed to change. And if it has to, then only very, very slightly. And when we turn 18, when we're of age, we'll come back and creep under Mamika's thick, warm quilts, and we'll dream that we were only gone a few years over there in Switzerland. Yes, we're finally here. Only after we finished our tour of inspection do we feel we have arrived, that we're here now, where grandmother lives. Mamika, who incidentally has visited us in Switzerland twice for Easter and once for Christmas, and has only ever been out of the country once, when she went to Rome to kiss the Pope's hand. And Mamika chuckled when she told us about the exhausting bus ride to see her beloved Pope, about Rome, which seemed infinitely large to her, that she was always leaning on her cane or on her friend's arm. My big little girls, Mamika says when we link arms with her, slowly move towards the car because Father has called us to help him unload it. And only once we've started pillaging the overloaded Chevrolet, setting our suitcases and bags down next to the well, do I notice that the heat hasn't changed, even though it's now late afternoon. Oh, what a car, Mamika says with one hand and the other behind her back. How can you drive an enormous thing like that, Miklos? You even know where it begins and ends? In America, everyone drives one of these, Father says. It's a fact, he adds when Mamika looks at him, eyebrows raised. Come, sit in it. And Father opens the passenger side door, brushes his hand over the leather seat. It's even more comfortable than sleeping in bed. And Father lights a cigarette. Mamika hesitates, says, I'm too old for something this modern. And Mother says that tomorrow's another day, but Father already has hold of Mamika's hand, helps her gently but firmly as she lowers herself into the car, lifts her legs and settles herself onto the broad leather seat. Father, who shuts the passenger side door with flair, and Nomi and I, we're sitting on our suitcases watching Mamika as she looks out the windshield and tries to smile. Father, who is already sitting behind the wheel and surely explaining how everything works, the automatic transmission, the windows with electric controls, the air conditioning, the comfort, a word he doesn't pronounce quite right in German, but likes to use.
Azt gondoltam, szívem eső esik, pedig az én szemem könnyezik. Az én szemem sűrű felhős, onnan ver engem az eső. Gyere rózsám, béküljünk meg, mi egymásnak engedjük meg. Mindig voltak, akik így jártak, mint megengedtek egymásnak. Als wir nun endlich mit unserem amerikanischen Wagen einfahren, einem tiefbraunen Chevrolet, schokoladefarben könnte man sagen, brennt die Sonne unbarmherzig auf die Kleinstadt. Hat die Sonne die Schatten der Häuser und Bäume beinahe restlos aufgefressen. Zur Mittagszeit also fahren wir ein, recken unsere Hälse, um zu sehen, ob alles noch da ist, ob alles noch so ist wie im letzten Sommer und all die Jahre zuvor. Wir fahren ein, gleiten durch die mit majestätischen Pappeln gesäumte Straße, die Allee, welche die Kleinstadt vorankündigt. Und ich habe es nie jemandem gesagt, dass mich diese zum Himmel strebenden Bäume in einen schwindelerregenden Zustand versetzen, einen Zustand, der mich mit Matteo kurz schließt. Der Taumel, dem ich verfalle, als Matteo und ich uns endlos im Kreis drehen, auf der schönsten Lichtung des Dorfwaldes. Innig, seine Stirn auf meiner. Später dann Matthäus Zunge, die eigenartig kühl ist. Seine schwarzen Körperhaare, die sich so an seine Haut schmiegen, als wären sie ihrer hellen Schönheit völlig ergeben. Als wir an den Pappeln vorbeifahren, mir dieses Flirren den Verstand raubt, unser schokoladefarbenes Schiff geräuschlos von einem Baum zum nächsten gleitet, dazwischen die Luft der Ebene, die sichtbar wird. Ich kann sie sehen, die Luft, die jetzt stillsteht, weil die Sonne so erbarmungslos ist. Da sagt mein Vater zur Klimaanlage hin, immer noch alles genau gleich. Hat sich nichts verändert. Gar nichts, sagt er mit kleiner Stimme. Azt gondoltam, szívem eső esik, pedig az én szemem könnyezik. Az én szemem sűrű felhős, onnan ver engem az eső. Gyere, gyere rózsám, béküljünk meg, mi egymásnak engedjük meg. Mindig voltak, akik így jártak, mind megengedtek egymásnak. Schwarzarbeiter ziehen sich von Kopf bis Fuß schwarz an. Ein Dieb muss sich ja tarnen, wenn er nicht erwischt werden will. Nur seine Augen bewegen sich rasch und hell hin und her. In der Nacht. Die beliebtesten Schwarzarbeiter sind die Pfarrer. Sie tragen im Gegensatz zu den Dieben keine Maske, sondern einen weißen Kragen. Und ihr Gesicht sieht so unschuldig aus wie frisches Brot. Andere Schwarzarbeiter müssen mit schwarzen Sachen arbeiten, Kohlesäcke schleppen zum Beispiel. Oder sie müssen, ähnlich wie eine Waschmaschine, so lange arbeiten, bis die schwarze Sache wieder weiß ist. Way. Irgendwann habe ich einmal das Wort Schwarzarbeit aufgeschnappt von meinen Eltern. Ich konnte noch kaum Deutsch und es gab Wörter, die vergaß ich rasch wieder, andere gingen mir nicht mehr aus dem Kopf, so auch Schwarzarbeit. Es gefiel mir, dass ich das Wort zwar nicht brauchen konnte, im Gegensatz zu Schlafen, Essen, Trinken, der See, die Frau, der Mann, das Kind, ja, nein, mir aber trotzdem vieles darunter vorstellen konnte. Andere Wörter hingegen stapelten sich in meinem Kopf wie nutzloser Kram. Ausweis, Niederlassung, Wartefrist. Bis ich die Bedeutung dieser Wörter begriff, dauerte es lange. Auch deshalb, weil meine Eltern sie auf ihre Art betonten oder unabsichtlich abänderten. Der Ausweis war der Eisweis, die Wartefrist die Wortfrisch und Niederlassung klang aus ihrem Mund wie Niederlasso.
I mean, it would sound much better if we had time to, you know.
Rakastuka.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
No, karasta puttu korapa.
Yeah, New York, you know what I'm saying?
Huh?
New York, you know.
Oh, oh.
CBGB, you know.
Rakaskabadagabadagishika.
Yeah, the Apollo, you know what I'm saying?
Huh?
Yeah, the big clubs, you know, they got big PAs, you know what I'm saying?
Huh?
Yeah, PAs. You know what a PA is? You know, I know it, at least I know it, you know.
Oi, that's my fucking voice.
Yeah. You came to New York to do this joke, huh?
I came to New York to show my voice.
To show what? That's my fucking voice, you know what I'm saying? That's an effect. I got the voice. You just got, you know, an effect. Yeah.
Do you believe him or me?
You know, I'm not on the program, but that's my fucking voice.
Okay, I tell you, this guy is called Your Chuck 1001.